You can do this.
It's been a while. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LFC Transfer Room with myself, Louis Fell, joined today by three lovely gentlemen, Ritchie, Seb, and James. Ritchie, how are you doing this evening?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Football season's back, so all the better for this Friday, and very much looking forward to tomorrow too.
Exactly. This is, of course, the Liverpool Man City Community Shield preview, so we'll get into all of that in a minute. Sebastian, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Long day at work. Looking forward to going to the game tomorrow. I don't know if anybody else here is or if there's anybody in the chat going, but yeah, I'm looking forward to actually travelling down there and being at the game.
Absolutely. And it is, of course, a double header as well. Is on Sunday we face Strasbourg in the evening as well. So that'll be quite interesting how the teams sort of line up for that. James, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm nervous about my green screen not arriving because I'm doing the watch along tomorrow and I'm trying to go live with the all the Louis and
the bells and whistles.
So,
yeah.
So we'll see how that goes because that could be an epic fail, couldn't it? So, but it'll be fine. What's the worst that happens?
Exactly. Good evening, Jen, Melanator, and Don Van Dyke in the chat, and everybody who's just joining. We'll give everyone a few minutes to join as well. I'll start with the obvious questions, which I think I know what your answers are going to be. But the Community Shield, is it? We've lost it a couple of times. The last two times, I believe, we've played in it in recent succession. Even though it is a glorified friendly, Ritchie, we still want to try and win this, don't we?
Yeah, I think it's a good way to start the season. It's one of those that if you win it, it does mean a lot. It does count as a trophy. And if you don't, it's, like you said, a glorified friendly. We discussed this actually on the podcast as well. And we said it's a nice occasion. It's the only one that Jurgen and Jordan, etc., haven't won. So it'd be nice for them to get that. But can any of you tell me who the holders are of the Community Shield? Because my podcast co-host could not.
Leicester?
It is, Tino. Well done. It is Leicester. See? And what season did they have last season? So there we go.
True. Coming straight over to you, Seb. As we've said, the only cup that Klopp hasn't won. Can we keep hiding behind, it's only a glorified friendly if we don't get a result tomorrow? It's just one of those things that we just kind of need to tick the box, don't we?
Yeah, we certainly need to just tick it off our list of things and trophies to a certain extent that we haven't won. It's one of those that we certainly need to. If we don't win, I'm certainly still going to be hiding behind that. It's a glorified friendly without a shadow of a doubt. That's the only thing I'm going to be screaming until we actually play Fulham on the first game of the season. So it's one of those. I'm looking forward to the game. It should be a very exciting game. I'm more interested to see who plays in the forward line. It's looking like it could be Bobby instead of Darwin. It's also interesting to see who, and looking forward to who plays in the first game of the season of the Premier League. So it's going to be certainly interesting to see how this game prepares us and sets us up for the season ahead.
And James as well, just rounding it off with your, where's your head at with this game tomorrow? Is it? It's obviously not a must win, but on a scale of 1 to 10, how badly do you want to win this game? I guess.
Not massively. We've never won the Audi Cup, and I don't really have sleepless nights over it and add it to the Klopp's never won list because Arsenal just win that every year because they play against someone that doesn't matter. I don't really care about the Cup. What I care about is just seeing how Liverpool and Man City square up against each other. That's the insight into the league. And whilst it's a friendly and the fitness and the training will be in different ways, it's just these are the top two teams in the Premier League. Everyone else is a good distance away. So to see how we go blow for blow, to see how each sets up blow for blow, gives us an indication as to how the Premier League is going to go and how the important thing is going to go. And that's what I'm dying to see. I'm dying to see how City changed the system, how Liverpool changed the system. If Liverpool changed the system with Bobby doing it, but obviously they've got Haaland up front and they've taken out a few people. All this is really interesting stuff because against nobodies you can prat around. But when it's Liverpool, Man City, there's got to be an element of structure there, and I'm dying to see how each of us come up against each other and try and have a kip at half time, as Jen says, because I have to, based on what you normally do, Louis.
Well, especially in the warmer months, sometimes you've got to get off the leather seat and give your bum a bit of a break from. Yeah, exactly. Go and sit down somewhere cooler. But let's get straight into it. First of all, a point that you mentioned, James, and I'll come to Ritchie to start off with this about the lineups. Obviously, we're not fully ready for the season yet. I know it's only a week away, but we've still got tomorrow. We've got Sunday. There's even talks of us organising another friendly once the season kicked off. I think Aston Villa are being considered as a potential opponent for after the Fulham game. Do you expect Klopp to go with a pretty strong lineup for this, don't you? Because even though he will probably downplay it as not a massive competition, he can't send the kids into this one, can he?
I would expect him to put a team out to win, because regardless of, it being whatever it is, whether it is a glorified friendly or a cup, you don't want to lose to Manchester City, and you certainly don't want to get off on the wrong foot at the start of the season, because yes, we do have Fulham, but as you said, there's a long gap between Fulham and the next game. So I think it would be good to build those minutes. I would like to see a strong team. Now, when I say strong, I mean the strongest available. We know about the goalkeeper situation as well, so it looks as if something might happen there. But I would expect him to go full strength, and hopefully we can win it. And I'm not even bothered really if it's a draw and we win on pens. It's one of those that you actually just really want to win. It's an early marker for the season to say, yes, we beat Man City and we've already won some silverware. I think it does help. I joked earlier that Leicester won it last season, and they didn't have the best of seasons, but it's always helpful to have a good start. And I think by doing that, you've got to play your strongest squad. Not easy for me to say, and see what's on the horizon for Fulham.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of lineups, as you mentioned, the goalkeeping situation, Seb, it looks like Adrian could be our starting goalkeeper tomorrow. Is that something to be concerned about? Do we need to, because he hasn't really featured for us for so long, do we need to give him a bit of a clean slate, lay off him a little bit? Or would you have preferred to have seen like maybe a Liam Hughes, or because some of those goalkeepers during pre-season really impressed a little bit? I know it's tough to throw them in a game like this. We saw with Zach Steffen, it sort of bit them in the butt a little bit. Different context in the game, but what are your thoughts on the goalkeeping situation?
I'd rather play my grandma in goal than Adrian. I'm not gonna lie. I don't trust him. I genuinely don't trust him. I don't think he's good enough, even as a third choice goalkeeper. That being said, even though some of the young lads, like you mentioned, have done well when they've come in, when they've played the minutes, I think this is, albeit it is a glorified friendly and a pre-season game still technically, I still think it's too big of a game to go, well, there's your debut essentially in one of the biggest games of the start of the season. So I think it'd be too much pressure to put on some of the young lads. If Kelleher was injured, he'd without a shadow of a doubt be playing. There's no doubts about that. If he wasn't injured, but I don't trust Adrian. I think he should have left this now. Essentially, he should be gone this summer. We should put all of our faith either in the youngsters or bring in someone else of that age, but someone who's a bit higher quality. Even when he was at his peak, he didn't do much good at West Ham. I just genuinely don't trust him. So I'm going into that game incredibly nervous.
If it goes to pens, we're out, aren't we? We've lost, guaranteed.
Without a shadow of a doubt, yeah. Even I don't trust him.
Super Cup. Remember the Super Cup?
Pens. West Ham took the gloves off before taking his winning penalty. I want to see that again. Well, you'll be happy to see, Seb, that a lot of people in the comments do agree with you. And East is saying they prefer Karius. Well, that's a different conversation, maybe.
Hold up a sec.
Rather play Milner. Jen says Adrian's a ticking time bomb. Charles says stealing a living. Yeah, go on. Karius or Adrian, Seb?
Wow. Karius now. Oh, that's really
probably go with Karius now because he's on the roids and he blocked the goal out a bit more.
He's massive, yeah. He is massive.
He is built. He is built. I would have to agree. Probably marginally Karius now.
Just don't let him throw the ball out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of these system changes and how that feeds into the lineup, I think. Well, in your opinion, James, if Jota was fit, would he be leading the line for this game and probably the first few games of the season to ease Darwin in? And the fact that he is injured, do you think Nunez starts tomorrow?
Nunez doesn't start tomorrow. Firmino starts tomorrow. And there's one goalkeeper none of us have talked about, by the way, which is Taffarel, who, if you saw that fishing picture, is ripped. That guy could come in. He could save a penalty shootout. I'm just calling it now. Taffarel, 94th minute, substitution, saves everything. No, yeah, so I think if Jota was there, Jota would be starting because he's earned the right to start at the start, and Nunez needs some time to develop. And everyone talks about structural changes and everything like that, but against Salzburg and whoever we played before, because that's just fallen out of my head, we played a very rigid 4-3-3 with Bobby Firmino playing false nine. So we still got to remember we've got the best false nine in world football. Whilst everyone says, "Oh, he doesn't score goals and stuff like that," this is a statistical anomaly of a player who just makes everyone better. So he is almost certainly going to start. I think if Jota was fit, Jota would start, but it's not going to be Nunez. I highly doubt it'll be Nunez. I don't think Klopp would want to put him in that Haaland versus Nunez battle. I think it's too psychologically risky for Nunez. Probably not for Haaland because he's quite bullheaded. But I think for Nunez, it could be a risk because there's so much hate on social media. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely something that we can either discuss today or on another stream. But Ritchie, coming to you, similar sort of thing, I guess. With Firmino, I think a lot of people thought he was finished with us. There was a lot of talk that maybe he would be the one from the original front three to leave. Of course, we know that that's no longer the case. Klopp has also recently kind of rubbished suggestions that he would be allowed to go unless for a ridiculous fee. Is there maybe somewhat of a redemption season for Firmino a little bit? Because I don't know, has it been disappointing this last year or two, or hampered by injuries? What are your feelings around Firmino?
Bobby is, as Klopp said many years ago, world class every day. And I think he struggled. I think he generally struggled without the fans being there because he's a showman. We've seen that. When the fans came back, that game, I think it was the first game against Wolves, he just lit it up. And that's the Bobby that we know and love. And it's strange, isn't it? He almost needs like the backing of the fans to give him that extra boost. So, I'm not surprised to see Firmino, still in that team. And I wasn't surprised that it wasn't Firmino who left first because no one can do what Firmino does. We already brought in Luis Diaz, and he's essentially replaced Mane. And, there'll be arguments about who's better, etc. You might say that there's players out there on the right-hand side who could do what Salah does. Probably not as prolific, but there's probably players out there. But I generally struggle every single time Firmino's name is mentioned to think of anyone who could do what Bobby does and drop into those positions to allow the inside forwards to cut in or to allow a midfielder to drop into space, but also connect all of the play together. So, he's so essential to the way in which we play. And I think he should definitely 100% start tomorrow. Absolutely start tomorrow. Mo Salah is a better player if Bobby's on the pitch. And I think that probably was the same for Mane too. So I agree with James. I think Bobby's got to start. I'd like to see Nunez come on at maybe 60, 70 minutes. Yeah. Hopefully when we're a couple of goals up and that way there's no pressure. But as you said, that social media trolling was just absurd because, it does impact players. You know, it really does impact players. And as strong as you are, not everyone is built like Zlatan or Ronaldo, who can just shrug off the hate and use it to motivate them. Now, we saw, you know, Nunez resilience with the hush. That's fine. But that tells us that he was looking at social media and he was obviously affected by it, because otherwise he wouldn't have reacted, you know? So
it's got Harry Maguire against Albania written all over it.
But you could see it on his face when he scored the penalty, like how much he clenched his fists about it.
Absolutely.
So, like, obviously, it meant something to him, and it's a real shame that someone can be put in that sort of position, and it's because people want him to like everyone. No one wants Liverpool to do this again. Nobody wants us to do it again. We can't do it again.
And nobody said this about Diaz, now mainly because he hit the ground running, but he didn't come in January with a massive heaps of pressure on him. Nunez does, because Liverpool, I mean, I still remember, you know, Gary Neville almost crying into his cup of tea or whatever he was drinking, saying, oh, they've gone and found another one, talking about Diaz. And people are so desperate for Liverpool to stop finding attacking players, to stop finding gems and absolute diamonds. Now, Nunez comes in with a bit of a risk because he came in at a 65 million price tag. That's the only thing. If he was 40 million, if he came in at Luis Diaz's price tag, no one would be saying, oh, he's a flop. Oh, we can't do it. Right, this is a difficult league. You know, I think it's a ridiculous thing to say. But that being said, I would like him to come on and score a goal, even if it's just for his own confidence. And hopefully Bobby has a great game too.
He'll have Jota in his ear as well, won't he? Because Jota got it. 45 million for him is shit. What the hell are Liverpool doing? It's an absolute second top scorer in the Premier League.
Yeah, people said the same about, if you actually look back, people said the same about Sadio Mane. You know, when Sky Sports or whatever it was tweeted, everyone was saying, what a waste of money, 35 million for Mane, what a waste of money. Liverpool are never going to get that back. It happens all the time. And it's just because Nunez could be Liverpool's highest ever transfer record. And I hope he is, because then that means he's obviously earned, you know, all of those bonuses. Yeah.
I mean, I completely agree with everything you just said. Obviously, all of our signings do get a bit of, you know, instantly the spotlight comes onto them. But maybe I'm wrong on this, Seb, but it does feel like this is probably one of the biggest spotlights we've ever seen shone down onto a Liverpool signing, at least. It's like every rival fan has bought an LFC TV subscription just to make a compilation of him not making a successful pass. And, you know, whilst it's great that he wants to silence those critics, he's, I hate to say, almost being put on a back foot already, and almost being in a position to fail and get, how do I say it, like a certain predisposition against him. Like, you know, like Phil Jones, like everyone's got a preconceived idea of what Phil Jones is. I'm not comparing the two, everybody. Exactly, James. But everyone's got an idea of what Phil Jones is. So he could play 3 or 4 games at a world-class level. But if he makes one mistake, he's you know, classic Phil Jones again, isn't he? It feels like this is a very tricky environment that Nunez is coming into. And maybe none of us foresaw quite how toxic this could turn out to be.
I mean, I expected it to be toxic to a certain extent, because it's suddenly, since Jurgen Klopp's come in, it's become popular to hate Liverpool fans. I mean, I could create a fan account for any team in the Premier League within the top half of the table, and then only talk about Liverpool and hate on them, and I would be looking at a couple of 100,000 followers. Like, it's suddenly become really popular to hate on Liverpool fans. So I kind of expected that toxicity, but not to the extent
to this level. Yeah.
This level is just something different. I mean, Van Dijk got it slightly, Alisson got it slightly because of the money we spent on them. But this guy coming in, replacing someone as influential as Sadio Mane was in Jurgen Klopp's era at Liverpool Football Club, to replace him, albeit not positionally, but he's gone out the window. He's gone out this transfer window. Nunez has come in. That puts a lot of pressure on him anyways. And then to have rival fans build on that, oof, like I don't think I could have coped with that if I was him. Not a chance.
Don't you think it's dead weird, just to jump in, Sorry, I was just going to say, don't you think it's dead weird? Like Tino just said, it's always Liverpool signings that people jump onto. I mean, yeah, maybe Manchester United too. Man City have just spent or could spend up to nearly £250 million on Erling Haaland. And nobody said anything about that because he had a release clause. And I think his actual fee was like 54. But you account everything else in, no one seems to mention that. And no one seems to be mentioning all of the other deals that are happening around the Premier League. Liverpool's spend net is, again, not a lot. But you look at even West Ham, Arsenal, they're spending lots of money. And nobody ever seems to mention anybody else's signings. It's always Liverpool's that the focus and the pressure is supposedly on. Jack Grealish cost £100 million. Imagine if Liverpool bought Jack Grealish last season for £100 million. How much stick he would have got, the club would have got, the fans would have got. Nobody seems to mention that Jack Grealish is England's highest ever transfer record. He did nothing last season. It's just bonkers. But Nunez comes in for 64 million. And oh my God, the world's ending.
Yeah,
it's interesting that these two big strikers don't have. It's a really different. I've been watching Haaland, I've been watching Nunez. Obviously, they're big, they're rangy, they're not as close control dribbly, and I think that's throwing people. It's not like it's Sterling on the ball. So when he goes up, it's like when Joel Matip goes on a run. He's in control, but my God, it looks like Bambi on ice, doesn't it? But he knows what he's doing. He's just got massive ship feet that touch the ball wherever it wants. And it's one of those situations where Diaz, we stole him off someone else. Hard for them to hate on someone that they really wanted, and then we just took him. No one knew about Nunez. No one knew about Jota. That's where all the hate comes. And it'll be fine. He'll shut him up. It'll be done at some point when Klopp deems him ready. You've got to remember, this is where Firmino earns his wage. This is where the Brazilians earn their wage. This is where Henderson, Milner mentally prepare players like this for the hate that they're going to get, because this is Liverpool, and the pressure we put on ourselves is harder than any pressure any fan group can put on ourselves, because we will create an atmosphere for you to excel. And as long as you thrive in that atmosphere, what matter what anyone else is saying, and Nunez hasn't experienced that yet, and he will.
Absolutely. Of course, this is the match preview for the Community Shield final tomorrow. So please do like the video and please do subscribe. We're still just getting into things, really. Plenty to discuss. One more player that I do want to kind of focus on, if we go back to Firmino, because I think most of us on here probably have a lot of positive things to say. And I think everybody involved with Liverpool has, especially historically, positive things to say. But in the chat and, on social media as well, we see things like this. Firmino had to be sold last season already. He is average at best. Now, I know that Klopp has a lot to say, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here. This is not necessarily my own opinion. I know that Klopp has a lot of positive things to say about Firmino, but then again, he has a lot of positive things to say about everyone in his club when he's asked about them specifically. Ritchie, I'll come to you on this one. Has he really been that great? I know injuries have played a part, but has he really commanded a spot when he's had the opportunities? Surely he's getting past his best, isn't he? He's not at the top of his game anymore, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair to agree with that assessment. I think his peak was perhaps 5, 4, and 3 years ago. The past couple of years, he's not hit those levels. I think injuries certainly hampered that. And we've had the emergence of, firstly, Jota down the middle, and then Mane towards the end of last season. I don't think Lewandowski would have got in ahead of Mane towards the end of last season, which is probably why Bayern sold Lewandowski, because that's where they put Mane. But, for Bobby, yeah, he probably is. But Juventus were rumoured, and it was squashed pretty quickly, actually. 20 million euros to sign Firmino this window. Would anyone really want to see Bobby go for 20 million euros this summer, this late in the window? I would struggle. I don't think so. So for me, I would rather lose him on a free next season. His contract's up next season. I'd rather him help Nunez bed in. I'd rather him be there to take the pressure off when Jota, again, who's had fitness issues. Someone's got to lead the line, and if it's not Firmino, then who is it going to be? I don't think Klopp's going to throw Nunez in straight away. I think he'll probably play a bit more than what Robertson did and Fabi when they first came in. But why should he? Like, Firmino is the connector. He always has been, and I just can't think of a sensible reason why we would get rid of him. And for me, he has to play when Jota's injured and Nunez has not yet found his feet. For me, it's just common sense. I can't see a different option unless you put Salah there. But then who'd you put on the right? Do you put Elliott on the right? Do you put Oxlade-Chamberlain on the right? Because I certainly wouldn't. So, it just makes sense that Firmino stays and that he does play. No, he might be past his best, but at the same time, he's probably better than 70% of the other strikers out there in the world right now.
I mean, I think that transitions us quite nicely into the next bit I wanted to talk about briefly, which was system changes. I don't just mean for Liverpool, but I think this game, with the two leading strikers potentially being a part of the squad, it does show a bit of a shift. Maybe bigger for Liverpool because we've played for a false nine for many years. Man City, they had Aguero. Last season was maybe the only time they haven't had an out-and-out striker, although Jesus is a striker. I don't know why everyone thinks he isn't. But, Tino, is the introduction of Haaland and Nunez kind of a new chapter in this already massive rivalry? And you couldn't get two different strikers in terms of Nunez and Firmino, could you, in terms of what they offer? So obviously that gives us lots of options, maybe a plan B, which everyone says that Klopp, doesn't have, and that's one of his things to work on coming from us. How do you see Nunez affecting us, changing us? Everything's going to be going through him now, isn't it?
Yeah, you'd think so long term. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about transitioning into the 4-2-3-1 with a double pivot, which is what Jurgen like to use at Dortmund. So there's a lot of talk about that. Nunez as a plan B in the short term, as someone who can come on and change the way we play and really impact and help defeat those low block teams that we've seemed to consistently struggle against. But you look at last season, Thiago was meant to be that player. Thiago was meant to be the guy who comes in creative flair, style, on the ball, quality world-class player who was meant to really help try and change the way we play to defeat those low block sides. And it's helped. He's a phenomenal player. He starts week in, week out for every team in the world, without a shadow of a doubt. But we're still struggling against those low blocks. It'll be interesting to see. Like Jurgen Klopp recently came out, I believe, after, was it Salzburg of the last game? I don't know. It's one of the Red Bull teams. I get them muddled up. One of the Red Bull teams talking about that how early on it is in Nunez's career and how he was a bit isolated at times in the games, which you kind of expect this early on in his career. I think we put way too much pressure on him to instantly come in and make an impact. You look at Fabinho, you look at Ox, you look at Robertson particularly, players who two of those three players are unbelievable and arguably one of the best in the positions in the world, and they still took 3, 4, 5 months, maybe longer. I mean, Robertson was kept outside by Alberto Moreno, and he's trash. So it's going to take a long time to see how he transitions, how we change the way we play. It'll allow us long term to be unpredictable, which I really like, because you look at the Real Madrid game, the Champions League final, Madrid sat back, defended, and had a phenomenal goalkeeping performance. I'll give them that. But they sat back, they defended, they tried to limit how influential our fullbacks was, and it killed us. Albeit we created a host of chances and arguably should have won the game. To a certain extent, it still killed a lot of our creativity. And bringing in someone, a proper number 9, someone who's going to lead the line, will really allow us to transition and be unpredictable, which is something going forward that I'm looking forward to seeing.
I mean, James, this is a slightly loaded question because it obviously puts my opinion into it slightly. But in terms of this whole formation debate, a lot of talk about 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, 4-2-4. Do you think maybe there's a chance of putting a bit too much emphasis on all that? Because ultimately, during the game, we're quite fluid. You know, obviously, we tend to notice the right-sided 8 tends to be a lot more advanced. Our wing-backs can become inverted at times. I mean, Trent almost operates as a central midfielder at times. Are we putting a bit too much emphasis on this whole debate?
I think there's a defensive system and then there's offense. And I think they're two very different things. I think defense gets in position so everyone knows where everyone is. And that's probably where you see a more standardized 4-3-3. Offense, you'll see Robertson always stays wide. You'll see Trent comes into the number 10 position. You'll see Diaz switches between in and out. You'll see that the overlap. You'll see Henderson takes the gap that Trent leaves. And you'll see them just moving around a little bit. Unlike when it used to be Firmino, Mane and Salah, and they just used to go in wherever they fancied. And then everyone else would just stay in quite a rigid position. Now you've got other players coming in and causing havoc. But structurally wise, it's more important on defense than offense. But they'll learn where everyone prefers to go. And this is where Nunez needs time, because the other players need to know where he's preferentially going to be going, where he naturally hangs on defenders, where he finds space. And they will learn to pass to that, because that's what you do. And that takes time. Structure, formation. There's 3 forwards, there's 3 midfielders, there's 4 defenders, in essence. Whether one goes slightly higher in midfield, whether one sits back, it's still a 4-3-3 at the end of the day.
Yeah. Thank you to everybody who is watching or has just joined. There's quite a few of you in here, so thank you very much. Please do like the video. Please subscribe to the channel as well. It really does help us out, and you join a lovely community of all Liverpool supporters, of course. We will also be live for a watch-along of the game tomorrow as well, so do join us for that. If you've got the game on the telly or on your laptop, you can also have us on as well for exclusive Liverpool voices only, and post-match reaction, of course, as well. Just finally on this, I want to talk about the rivalry with City. I mean, Ritchie, sorry to interrupt. I know it's only a glorified friendly, only the Community Shield. There are more important games out there, but I think someone mentioned it might have been you. This is a good chance to just maybe give ourselves a bit of a psychological boost. The rivalry with City, although we like to maintain, they're still somewhat irrelevant to the wider footballing world. Between us, there is a bit of, it's growing. We've got to admit it's growing. They're obviously the favourites for the title every single year. Guardiola and Klopp, there's an interesting dynamic there. And wins against them have been a bit harder to come by. I think a lot of people, I don't know if I'm on my own in this, but a lot of people I feel overstate the FA Cup win. They were a significantly weaker team in that game. If they played their full strength, I think it would have been a different game, not necessarily that we lose. But as I was saying, this is a chance to just get that psychological edge, perhaps going into the new season, isn't it? In a big rivalry.
Yeah, especially because it's only to be at this moment in time, Liverpool City going for the title. I can't see anyone else really going. So the fact that it won Pove, surely that's better than losing. And that Klopp and Guardiola dynamic is always interesting. They seem to have a lot of respect at the same time.
No, wait, sorry, Ritchie, we're just losing you slightly on that one. I'll just move on. I'll pose the same question to Seb. Sorry, Ritchie.
You're gonna have to tell me the question again.
No,
not gonna lie, I wasn't even concentrating. I was waiting to hear what Ritchie was gonna say, and then it just went robotic. So
that's all right. I've got a long, drainy voice. It's hard to keep up sometimes. What did I even say? Right. The rivalry with City. It's a big one. Psychological edge is important. Wins against them have been hard to come by. Is this a good chance to just give ourselves that little edge at the start of the season?
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. I think there's more pressure in going into the game on City than there is Liverpool. City have sold two key players in their forward line and are banking everything on Haaland. Obviously, both teams are no slouch in terms of getting goals. It's like City got 99 in the Premier League last season. We got 94. But putting all of your money on Haaland, who has had some big injuries, is a lot of pressure, especially selling Sterling, who's very creative, selling someone like Gabriel Jesus, who got 8 assists last season. Sterling, I think, got 13 goals off the top of my head. So I think there's a lot more pressure on them going into this game. So I think Liverpool can not necessarily take it easy, but go into it knowing that City are the ones everybody is expecting to win. And they can really hopefully try and use that rivalry to take them to the cleaners almost. I think it's going to be a tough game, don't get me wrong. But this is a really good opportunity for Liverpool to really dominate and try and say, right, this is us. This is the way we want the season to go. And you're going to have to keep up with us, because if you don't, we're going to be away.
And on that, I think we'll pretty much wrap it up, but we'll go with some score predictions. Ritchie, I'm very sorry to cut you off. It was just a little cutting out quite a lot there, but I'll get your score prediction for this game.
2-1 Liverpool.
Seb?
I'm going to go 5-4 on penalties. 1-1. 1-1.
It goes straight to penalties.
You're backing Adrian to win on penalties?
Absolutely.
That's the only place I'd give him a bit of credit, to be honest.
I don't trust him. I don't trust him at all, even on penalties. But
he's just a lunatic.
Is this when your brother comes on and goes and goal?
Yeah, that's what I'm banking on. That's what I'm banking on.
Zimmer frame, just like that.
James, give us your prediction for tomorrow.
I think it's going to be 3-2, but the second will come from City late on because Adrian does Adrian.
Yeah, I think I would put good money on that, to be honest with you. But I think that's a good place to wrap it up there. Thank you very much for watching. Please do like the video. Please subscribe. We'll be live tomorrow, half an hour before kickoff, roughly.
Half an hour before kickoff?
Oh, well, no, sorry. You can do whatever you want. You can do an hour.
Half an hour before kickoff.
To run about Ben Davies. Yeah. or 5 minutes before, or 5 minutes into the game.
I'll do half an hour. I'll break Streamlabs in that time, but I'll do half an hour.
Brilliant. Okay. Make sure you do stick around for us. Check that one out. Get involved. Give James a morale boost as the game goes on. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Take care of yourselves. Have a lovely evening, and we'll see you in the next stream.